last video of 1.2. We are going to take this graph right here, and we're going to find all these different things. So we're kind of putting together everything we've talked about so far. So let's start with domain. Domain is our x values. So we want to say what x values are included in this graph. So if I'm only looking at my x values, I see that this graph is going from -4 x value to +4. Now, looking at my endpoints, I am including those endpoints, so brackets. Okay, let's do the range. So now we're looking at the y values, up and down. And I see that this range goes from -3 up to +3. Also included, because they are closed points, so we want brackets. Okay, next, let's look at my x-intercepts. That is where we are intercepting or crossing the x-axis. So x-intercepts, looks like I've got one there and one there. Now, anytime we talk about x-intercepts, we always list them as points. So we have one at -2, 0 and one at +2, 0. Those are my two x-intercept points. Same thing for my y-intercepts. It is intercepting or crossing the y-axis, and it is also always listed as a point. So 0, 3. That's my y-intercept. Okay, now we're looking for the zeros. Now remember, zeros for right now, zeros and x-intercepts mean the same exact thing for us. So these right here, those x-intercepts are our zeros. However, zeros are not listed as points. They are listed as x equals. That is one of the big differences. So these zeros, we're going to say there are zeros at x equals -2 and +2. So they are the same as our x-intercepts, but we only want the x values. Okay, next, this says I want to solve f of x is less than 0. So I want to find where this graph is less than 0, aka below the x-axis. Where is this graph below the x-axis? Well, right there and right there. So I can say this interval is below the x-axis from x equals -4 to, once again, I'm doing the x values just like I did with increasing and decreasing, to x equals -2. So it is below the x-axis from this point to this point. And I'm listing the x values. Now let's talk brackets. -4, this point is below the x-axis. So I want a bracket. Let's talk this point right here. The question is this point right there less than 0? No, that point is equal to 0, and we do not have a little equals bar underneath this less than. So I want a parentheses. I do not want to include this point because it is not less than 0, it is equal to 0. So now I can come over here and do the same thing. I want from x equals 2 to x equals 4. And let's talk brackets. This point is not less than 0. It is equal to 0, so I do not want to include it, parentheses. This point is less than 0, so I want to include it, bracket. Okay, next question. Let's find f of 2. Now remember, this thing in there is an x value. So I want to find where is the x value 2. So I come over here and I want to find the point where the x value is 2. Look at that right there. That is the point where the x value is 2. So what I want is this is going to equal the y value at the point where the x value is 2. So the y value up here is 0. So the y value at the point where the x value is 2 is 0. There we go. Let's do this one. This out here is now a y value, and I want to find the x values that have this y value. So I come up here, let's see, has a y value of -3 right there and right there. These both have y values of -3. The x values at those are -4 and 4. So we can say x is equal -4 and 4. Those x values give me a y value of -3. Now let's do that graphically. It's saying I want how many solutions are there to f of x equals 1. Remember, this 1 is a y value. So what I could do is draw a constant line that crosses my y value of 1. So there's my constant line, and it's really asking how many intersections are there. Well, it intersects the graph right there, and it intersects the graph right there. So there are 2 places where it crosses that y equals 1 line. So there's 2 solutions. Okay, no, this is a lot. We're almost there. Even, odd, or neither. Remember, even reflects across the y-axis. Odd is around the origin. This one definitely reflects across the y-axis. So this is even. Reflect across y-axis. Okay, intervals of increasing and decreasing. So remember, we go from left to right, and we want to go uphill or downhill. So start on the leftmost point of the graph. We're going uphill, and then we're going downhill. And we do x values. So I want increasing from this point to this point. So I want from -4 to 0. -4 to 0. Increasing is always parentheses, never brackets. Decreasing is from this point to this point. So from 0 to 4. Always parentheses, never brackets. Okay, these last 4 are about our local and absolute max and mins. Since we just did this in the last video, I would like you to pause the video and try to finish these out on your own. Remember, local maximum is a hill. Local minimum is a valley. Absolute max is the highest y value. We're going to do values. And absolute min is the lowest y value. And then I'll just have you do points for the locals instead of y values. So pause the video, try to finish out those last 4, and then we'll be done. Let's see how you did. So we want local maximums first. Those are our hills. I have 1 hill there. I want the whole point. So 0, 3. Local minimums are valleys. I do not have any valleys in this graph. So local minimums, none. Absolute maximum, the absolute highest y value is right there at the highest y value of 3. There we go. Absolute minimum y value is absolutely the lowest y value. That is right there at -3. That's the y value that is the lowest. So there you go. That kind of summarizes everything we've talked about so far, and you are officially done with 1.2.